Welcome to In Tune. I'm your co-host, Matt Rector, an aspiring luthier from Baltimore, Maryland.
And I'm your other co-host, Ethan Morset, a music producer and founder of Blue Haven Music based in Minnesota.
Our goal is to provide value to enterprising musicians, artists, and craftspeople by sharing our conversations and the lessons we've learned along the way.
If you like our content, help us out by following us and giving us a positive rating on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. Tune in for new episodes on the first and third Wednesday of each month. This is episode 50! The big 50, folks.
Yeah, 50 episodes.
Halfway
to 100.
Half of a century. I don't know if that's how it works.
Yeah, we do one episode a year. Yeah.
Hey, your clock is going off to
it's
celebrate.
The gears of time.
The gears
of time moving.
But yes, we finally made it to episode 50. Technically, if we're really like looking at the number of episodes we released, this is probably the 51st episode because our last episode was episode 49 and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, it was going to be episode 50 and we're not ready for 50 yet. So that's going to be episode 49 and a half.
That's right. Right.
So now we're ready.
I forgot about that.
Now we're ready, and we have the big 50. We have huge things planned for this episode. And those huge things are talking about kind of going down memory lane, looking back at episode 1 and seeing just kind of doing a commentary like about what we thought back then and where we are now, and just kind of generally a looking back to that first episode when we started things out. So to start, I'm just going to do a quick recap of that episode just to refresh people. I'm guessing most people don't remember all the details of that episode. I didn't remember all the details of that episode. So our first episode was aired on October 5th, 2022. So we are a month away from 3 years of In Tune. Isn't that like nuts? Like, it is pretty crazy. 3 years ago.
And a lot has honestly happened in that time.
Mm-hmm. A lot is similar and a lot is different for sure. But yeah, that episode was aptly named In the Beginning. And just kind of a recap of the episode. We did our first like intro at the beginning of the episode to kind of talk about like what is In Tune, because at that time nobody knew and we didn't really know. And then basically we just kind of talked through both of our backstories. I went through, you just listened to this episode today, and I listened to it as well. How Mr. Last was an impact, and then how my first memory of like wanting to do music or having an interest in music is when I was in like kindergarten and Ben Luckins was playing the piano, and I'm like, hey, I want to do that. All the way through to like starting at Federated back in 2017, kind of giving up the music dream for a while and then returning to it and working on I think at the beginning of on episode 1 I was specifically trying to build up credentials. So like I said, I was offering music for free to get music in things so I could build up my credits basically. So that's where I was at when we recorded episode 1. And then I think what you were talking about is you talked again kind of about your backstory. You talked about how like when you were a kid, you really liked to know how things were put together, and you were like interested in becoming an architect when you were younger. And then you got into music and you were playing guitar and you read a lot of guitar magazines, and that you just started getting interested in how guitars were built, and then you jumped forward to meeting Abby and moving out to Baltimore. And then the interesting thing that I didn't realize is you, right when you recorded that episode, you had just started your apprenticeship. It was the day after you started your apprenticeship that we recorded our first episode. So it's just, I thought that was kind of interesting because again, a lot is different now. Like you've moved on past that and everything, and um, it was just kind of cool to take the time machine back to October of 2022 to see where we were at then. But yeah, that's just a recap of the episode. But yeah, we're just gonna kind of talk about where we were, where we're at. But Matt, do you have anything you kind of want to say, or do you want to take things over here? I know you had some questions.
No, I mean it's interesting looking back. October 2022. So at the time of recording this, it is September 3rd. Yeah, the 3rd
Yep.
of 2025. And this probably won't release until either later in this month of September or possibly in October. And my wife and I, we just celebrated our anniversary at the end of August.
Congrats.
So that was our 4-year anniversary. So looking back in October of 2022, at that point I had just been married for a little bit more than a year.
Wow.
Um, yeah. I mean, I think I remember in that episode I mentioned you were my best man, and that would have still been pretty fresh, um, at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because in the grand scheme of things, 3 years is really not that long. Um, I've been with my company now, my 9 to 5 job, for coming up on close to 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, just in 3 years, it really doesn't feel like it feels like a long time ago, but also not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to really articulate it.
Yeah, I hear you.
But a
Me.
lot has definitely happened. A lot has changed. And it was interesting kind of listening back. Um, you're right. I had just started my apprenticeship for guitar repair. And I did that for about a year,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not doing that anymore. Um, but I did have some questions, and I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up? I guess in terms of recapping,
I
just a general recap.
I think that's the highlights. It was really a backstory of how we each got to where we were at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just, how we got into music, um, and then how we deviated and then ended up where we were by the time that episode was recorded.
Yeah, if you think about it, you owe your entire musical career to Ben Lutkins.
All of it? I don't know about that. I I might owe more of it
To Eric
uh
Sweeney.
to Eric Sweeney or Mr. Last, or I don't know. I owe it to myself. Thank you very
That's
much.
right. It's true. But you had some friends who influenced you, and classmates who influenced you to kind of pursue this, which is interesting because I think you've taken this farther than they ever did.
Yeah, with the exception of Mr. Last. Cuz he's a
Well,
choir teacher, but
but that's different.
yeah.
Still music in the music, still working in something music related,
But
but
yeah, I
different.
mean, I'm not sure if those classmates are doing anything with piano or or music anymore. Or maybe they are,
Hmm.
but I've kind of lost touch with them, so I don't know.
Yeah. I can't say that I've really kept in touch with really any of our high school classmates except pretty much you and Ryan.
Yep. Probably same for me. Honestly, I lost touch with a few other people a few years ago, so is what it is, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I did have some, you know, looking back and kind of reflecting on that episode. One of the first things I noticed is, although I have a very basic setup still, in comparison to you for sure,
Hmm.
for my audio equipment, I think those first episodes were just recorded on. Honestly, I think it might have just been wired iPhone headphones, like the ones that used to come with the phone. And
Yeah, I think you're right now that you mention that.
I noticed right away that our audio. Well, first off, I noticed our intro is different.
Yep.
Um, and I noticed our audio, or at least my audio, was not as good. Um, which it was our start, whatever.
Hmm.
And I'm not trying to make this some 5-star production or whatever.
Right, right.
Um,
They're just things
you
you.
know,
It's just going down memory lane, remembering where we were at.
mhm,
You know.
correct. I also noticed that we were a little more awkward. There were some pauses,
Yeah.
and it felt a little bit more unnatural. And I think it's because we were getting used to speaking, and we tried to make things a little bit more scripted at the start, where we have kind of moved away from that.
Yep.
And so I think that sometimes it felt a little awkward. There was some transition sort of between things that felt a little strange.
Yep.
And I think that's partially because we were trying to almost check off a list of hitting different points. Um,
Yeah, and
I remember
then
that.
yeah, connecting, how are we going to get from A to B type of thing rather than just being organic about it and just having a conversation. Yeah, we definitely were way more scripted, way more like structured, and like we also were just less comfortable with it, right? Like it was our first
Hmm.
podcast episode literally ever. Like who has a amazing first podcast episode with, unless they get help from somebody else who like really knows what they're doing. We've done this all by ourselves, like
Hmm.
uh but yeah, I noticed that too. Well, I specifically wrote down there were a lot of pauses. Um but
Oh, you did? You also wrote that?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
funny.
So, we're thinking alike.
One thing that I found funny, just to poke a little bit of fun at you, was was when you were talking about Ben Lutkins and how he inspired you, and it's even funnier now that you said it was in kindergarten because I didn't realize that when you first were like inspired to play the piano,
Oh
because
no.
you during that conversation you're like, of course now I can play way better things than that, and I was like, wow, way to go, Ethan, hating on a kindergartner.
I feel like way better stuff than what he was playing at the time. Not that it wasn't a comment on him being like a bad piano player or something like that. Just
But
bad
I know it
context.
was just I know that it was, but taken out of context, it was funny to me because I was like, "Wow, you can play better than a kindergartner."
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, that's fair. That's pretty funny. Yeah, well, some of the stuff too, like you were talking about a bone nut, and then I just went a bone nut. Like I just said,
Oh
you're
yeah,
just like,
oh
well,
yeah.
yeah, it was a nut, and it was made of bone, and I was just like a bone nut, and then you just stopped for a second, and you're like, yeah, and then laughed, and it was just like,
It was because well, remember at that time, I think we've lightened up a little bit with we've relaxed a little bit with some things. So at the time, we were not really sure. I remember you mentioning like, "Oh, this is a." I'm not going to say that because this is a this is a G-rated podcast.
yeah, I was about to say bullshit.
Yeah, and
And I
so
didn't say it there either. because I
I
don't
know
want
that
to
we've
edit it.
definitely, well, I know we've definitely said some of that stuff on the podcast
Oh yeah.
now at this point. So I think we've definitely loosened up with that a bit. So
Oh show.
it is what it is. I mean, I think it's fine for us to speak naturally. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or use foul language for no reason, but
I am.
I also there it is. There it is, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm about to drop some F bombs.
One of the biggest changes is, it's come out since we started this podcast that, you're a struggling alcoholic.
No, that was pointed out by somebody, and then then I was like, maybe, you know, there could be
Obviously
some truth.
alcoholism obviously alcoholism is no joke. No disrespect or uh no ill intentions there. But when we have these podcasts, a lot of time Ethan and I will have a beer or something while we're talking, and I don't know if Ethan's been maybe just less conspicuous about it,
Probably.
or I guess more conspicuous. I'm sorry, I was using that wrong. But some of our listeners have pointed out that Ethan always seems to be drinking when we are recording, even though Ethan is definitely not an alcoholic. So,
I don't know. We could
or
talk
maybe
about
he
that.
is. Maybe he
We
is.
that could be this episode. We could break that down and decide.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
All
we're
right,
off,
I did have some serious. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we're off to a great start. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Mr. Rector.
All right. Well, now all joking aside, I did have some serious things um that I wanted to ask. So, I do think it was pretty cool listening to that first episode because like you said, it was definitely a trip down memory lane, and a lot has changed since then. Some things are very different, some things are not so different. And there's some things that like little details that I didn't really even remember.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just the whole reason we started the podcast, and we talked about this in the first episode, was basically Ethan and I, because we had shared goals of having our own businesses someday. But even though they were very different types of businesses, they were music related, or sort of music adjacent.
Hmm.
And Ethan and I, we tended to bounce a lot of ideas off of each other. We would end up having a lot of conversations talking about our goals and what we were trying to do and what we were trying to accomplish.
Yep.
And even things like, oh, how do I set up, a sole proprietorship or LLC, and asking those types of questions. And we had listened to Rob Dial, the mindset mentor, or Ethan. Ethan was a big listener of Rob Dial. I don't know if he still is, but
Yeah, I not as much lately, but I still frequently listen to him.
so Ethan had been listening to him, and
It's cliche because it's
uh,
true.
and he had shared some of his podcast episodes with me, and I think that it also helped inspire me at that time. But I think that also helped inspire us to start our own podcast, because the truth was we were talking about these things a lot. We were having these conversations, and so we just decided, well, why not record them and put them out there? And if they're helpful for anyone else who might be going through some of the same things, then great. And if not, they're just at least a way for us to chronicle our journey. And you know, looking back and listening to that first episode, I would say that that's definitely true, because there are things that I would not have remembered about that first episode
Hmm.
from 3 years ago. And so going back and being able to listen to that, it was a way for me to remember certain things from that time.
Mhm.
So in that way, I would say that, the podcast definitely succeeded.
Mhm.
Um, so I do have some sort of more serious questions for Ethan.
Let's hear him. I'm ready.
Well, one of them was you mentioned that you listened to at that time you said you still listen to some of those old recordings from when you first like were working in Fruity Loop Studio. And I
Yeah.
want to know now, 3 years later, I feel like your skills have I mean, if you were to look at your skills from 3 years ago versus now, I feel like you have grown tremendously as a music producer. And I want to know if you still look back on those recordings and if you still listen to them.
Um, Not a lot, no. Because right now it's currently on an inconvenient platform, uh, being a CD. uh, it's not on streaming anywhere, so I don't listen to a lot, no. But I can still hear some of the ideas that like I did and all that stuff. I mean, some of it, it's funny because like some of it, there's there's always this like, I don't know how else to describe it other than honeymoon phase of like learning a new instrument or learning new software or like recording software where like you just write without limits, right? Like there are no limitations. You don't have to write a certain way. You just play with it and see what comes out. And there's something really great about that. Like some really great ideas come out of that. I'm not saying that I would officially release any of those songs, but like I listen back and I'm like, oh, that was a really cool idea I came up with. Like for somebody who just started doing that. Uh, but yeah, definitely have come a long way on like, especially on the production quality side of things, and just there are certain, while it's fun to not have limitations and there can be some really cool stuff that comes out of that, you're gonna write more usual or more functional music, more consistently high quality music if you follow some of those guidelines. So
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, no, I don't really listen to them anymore. Maybe I will tonight though.
Yeah, you should if you find any that would be willing to share, maybe you can splice in like a little snippet of one of those old songs into the podcast.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to find it. It's definitely somewhere in this room. It might be in that closet right there, but I know it's on a CD somewhere. I probably should get it on a flash drive or like upload it into the cloud just so I don't lose it forever.
Hmm. But yeah, I don't know. You mentioned that, and I was just thinking kind of how looking back at this 3 years ago, at Intune 3 years ago, has been a little bit nostalgic, and so I was curious whether or not those tunes that you recorded, you know, were still sort of nostalgic for you. I guess
Oh,
if you still listen to them.
they're totally nostalgic. Yeah, just like listening to our past episodes is like a time machine. Listening to my like past songs that I created, like it's like a time machine too. You know.
Hmm.
Um.
I think that's true for a lot of like maybe a lot of artists or artistic people. I mean, even like wooden objects that I've made, I can look at them and see like, oh, like I can like cut that joint better to not, today than I could at that time. Like,
Yep.
things like that. So you can kind of look back and and see the growth and everything.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, um, moving on, I have a couple other questions. Um, some of these are going to be, I guess I want to see if some of these things still hold true for you. So you did mention in the first episode, you were really focused on building your credentials at that point, getting your name out there, and you've definitely done more of that through in-person networking, through your mentors, that sort of thing. Um, one of the things that we talked about at that time was doing things for free? Because you mentioned early on that you were trying to get your name out there by, basically giving some of your music for free for someone to use in like a video.
Yep.
Did that really help you? Do you think that that worked out or helped you much? And I kind of asked the question at that time, is that wise? If you were to go back and, do it over again, would you still think that that's wise?
You're asking me to contradict myself, and I'm not going to do that. Uh, I'm still kind of in the same place with that. I feel like getting started, I do think there can be it's hard to say because like on one hand, I'll basically just reiterate what I said before. On one hand, some people might turn down an opportunity because it's not free and they don't know who you are. There's that whole like, hey, I'll give you a song in exchange for exposure, right? There's still an exchange there.
Mm-hmm.
And then but um on the other hand, like they might look at that and be like, "Oh, this person's offering me music for free. It must not be that good." Like there's all that psychology there. And I listened back to that. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, like that's not my target now. Like my main strategy right now is to not offer music to people for free anymore." But I again, I think it depends. I think it depends on your situation. I think the key, I guess, is being open to opportunity, right? Like if you
Mm-hmm.
can get paid for your music, then obviously go after that and go down that avenue. But I don't know. I still think there is something to be gained by giving something for free. Um, I'm not actively doing that right now, but I think I feel like I still agree with that philosophy at least somewhat. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're definitely past that point now in your journey, but I just wondered if you thought that that kind of helped you in the way that you wanted it to at
I
that time.
I didn't go deep enough down the rabbit hole with that to say one way or another. Because I honestly I've switched directions a few times since that episode. Um, like it's the same general direction, making music for other people's content, but now it's a lot more focused on specifically what's called sync licensing. Um,
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if you even really knew about that at that time.
I didn't know what sync licensing was. No, I had no idea that was a term. I had no idea what I would even need to do to get into that. I didn't know it was, you know, I didn't know like the market for it or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, absolutely. I didn't know any of that back then. I just knew I had music enhanced visuals, right? In like movies, commercials, and that kind of stuff. So I knew that, and that's where I wanted to go. But at first I was like going to target YouTubers and things like that, and then now I'm not. I'm targeting TV shows and that kind of stuff. So bigger fish, basically, because that's where the
I
money
think that's,
really is. You know?
yeah, interesting. I think sometimes when you get started, it's hard to even know where to go
Oh yeah, yeah,
until you start kind of getting into it. You don't really know what resources are out there. That's part of the trouble with being like a beginner in anything.
yeah. It's like walking in a house that you don't know in the dark. You walk around, you feel around, you bump into a few walls, and then before you know it, you start to get like a picture of what the house is like or what it's laid out. It's kind of like that
Hmm.
with going into for me the music for video. I had to kind of
Yeah,
like stumble around and try to figure things out. And that's where the mentorship has been great. So um that helps
great analogy.
you kind of guide you through it. So
Um, all right, I have one last question. This is
better be
this
the
is a
best
doozy.
one.
This is a doozy.
Oof.
So I think you're probably going to talk about this more in our next episode. We have a special update episode coming up in episode 51. So stay tuned for that. But in episode number 1, you talked a little bit about how fresh out of college, you sort of just thought you needed to have a job. And if I remember correctly, like you kind of took the first decent opportunity that came your way.
Yep.
And you studied music in college, but you wanted to have a backup plan, so you did the computer science thing. So I guess my question is, do you regret having a backup plan? Do you think it would have been better if you just pursued music straight away? And B,
Two-part questions are scary.
do you regret having a backup plan? Do you think if you had to do things over again, do you think it would have been better to have just pursued music, right away? Now I'm forgetting the second part of my question.
I can start answering it, and then you can tell me what part B is if you think of it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm slightly conflicted because I know most people would say if you really want to do something, don't have a backup plan. I still think like some of what I said in the first episode, like don't just jump straight into an opportunity just because someone's offering it to you, right? Like scrutinize what you really want to do with your life more, right? I still think that's totally true. And like what I did back then, it would have been better to take a step back and think, rather than just jump into the first thing, the first reasonable thing. However, I would say that's me doing that has afforded like my current situation. Like I was able to work and save money, and eventually quit so that I could focus full time on it. And had I not had a plan B, that would have never happened. So I think there's a lot of advice out there, and granted, this is just my opinion, but I think there's a lot of advice out there that says like never have a plan B, never have a plan B. Like I get that there's merit to that. However, I think sometimes it's okay to divert from your main goal for a little bit to build up a foundation, because like if I didn't have a plan B, I probably wouldn't have as much savings right now to live off of. If I wouldn't have a backup career to fall into in case this doesn't work out. I wouldn't have any of those things. I wouldn't have a safety net whatsoever. And I know that's the point, but like it has afforded me to focus on this full time now. And it it's a way for me to take a risk without just the ship is not going to sink, right? I have other options. And frankly, I'm probably never going to give up on music anyway, but the computer science degree, the computer programming experience is something that I can use to build up money and fuel that until I can focus full time on it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say no, I don't really regret it, because I think it's afforded my current situation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess you kind of answered my second part of that question, which was just that, in terms of like jumping out of school and hopping right into that sort of first opportunity. The second part of my question was going to be, do you think you would have still done that, or do you think you would have maybe approached that differently?
I think,
And you kind of answered that
yeah,
already.
honestly, I think it's a good idea to. I think it's a good idea to go into a if you're gonna go to college, go into a and get yourself massively in debt. The wise thing to do is to do a career that can make you some decent money, and you can still go after your dreams someday. You can work on it while you're building up savings, but like, um, but at least like, I feel like some people, they like build up college debt and then they try to go become a musician, and then they're dealing with car debt, rent, college debt, and being a starving musician or artist or whatever. And I'm like, that's life putting a lot of pressure on you to give up, right? Whereas if you take out some of those variables, like you pay off your college debt quickly and you start building up savings and things like that actually makes it easier on you for you to accomplish your goal. Like, because you don't have as many financial issues that are competing with what you should be doing with your life, you know? Um, so I don't know. I feel like it can be wise to go to school for something that pays well and still eventually redirect to your dream, you know? Um, I don't know. That's what I think right now, at least. I think it can be beneficial to do that. It's been beneficial for me. So I haven't achieved my dream yet, um, but I haven't given up either, and I'm definitely way more deep into it than I ever was before. So
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk about that more in the next episode. Those are all of my questions. Did you have anything else that you want to discuss about episode 50?
I mean, I have like a few other things that we could bring up. Did you have anything that like you wanted to comment on about, like, I know you did a little bit, but anything you wanted to comment on about like where you were at and how you've changed course or any of that kind of stuff?
I to be honest with you, I feel like in the last, I want to say maybe a little bit more than a year, I haven't actually been particularly focused on Luthery.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I have been focused a lot on just woodworking skills in general. Um, I have a very deep interest in historic woodworking traditions and learning to do things by hand rather than machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not someone who's opposed to machines. I mean, they afford us a lot of our modern conveniences that we take for granted, you know, and things that we buy every day, they're accessible to people because they can be mass produced.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not here to poo poo on,
Oh, he said the
mass.
P word. Gotta bleep that
I'm not.
out.
I'm not here to take a crap on mass production or people who use power tools or anything. It's just something that interests me and something that I think maybe differentiates me a little bit.
For sure.
Um, so I think that if you really want to be a skilled luthier who's working mostly with hand tools, just improving your abilities as a woodworker in general are going to improve your skills a lot. And I would say that's definitely true for me. So I did the repair sort of, part-time repair apprenticeship thing for about a year.
Yep.
My setup skills, basic repair skills really improved tremendously during that time. My knowledge base really improved tremendously during that time. Um, earlier this year, I did a hand tool woodworking apprenticeship program.
Yep.
So I've also done, Ethan's done a couple things with mentorship, and I guess so have I at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely think that my skills, just as a craftsperson in general, have improved a lot. And also my setup, my if you look at the shop I'm in, you know, I think at the time, um, when we recorded that first episode, I had a workbench in the corner of our living room.
Yeah, it was part of your living room.
Yeah, so now I have a dedicated space, and I've built up my shop and my tools and that sort of thing. and that takes some time and know-how as well. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, this last year and a half or so, I haven't been super focused on Luthery specifically. That is, I think, still my long-term goal. Kind of like what you're saying, sometimes diverging a little bit from your main goal can be helpful, actually. Um, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Luthiers don't really make a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
in general. If you're just, doing repair work or that sort of thing, you can, but a lot of people starting out don't. And so if I had done that straight away, I recently got a promotion at my job, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. But it's, for the future, it also hopefully will afford me more opportunity to pursue some of my goals with this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Um, I had something else I was thinking of, but I've lost that train of thought now, I guess.
It's late at night. It's understandable. It's not really that late. It's only 8:30 there, but um okay, yeah, yeah. I just thought it'd be good to like kind of go down memory lane, kind of think back like where were we then? Where are we now? What did we think was kind of like you kind of things you said like we were a lot more formal back then and tried to make it more structured. We've since relaxed quite a bit. Um so yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to see where you were at with where you started and where you're at now and what you thought about that. But I think you've kind of answered that.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. The other thing I was going to mention now, I remember now, was I think the next thing that I maybe want to pursue in terms of my long term goals.
mm-hmm,
I really want to continue to hone my repair skills, and I think that's important, especially for small independent luthiers. There are plenty of people who build instruments and repair them. Unless your name is pretty well known, there's more money to be had in repair.
mm-hmm,
So it gives me an avenue to still work in lutherie that may be more lucrative, even if, you know, building instruments turns out to be more challenging, or getting my name out there turns out to be more challenging. But I think, the other thing that I think is important there is I think there are a lot of builders who really don't have a very good repair foundation.
mm-hmm.
And I think that having that background makes for a better builder.
Yep.
And I think that's something a lot of builders skip over. And so I am interested in continuing to improve my education with that, if you will, and hone some of my repair skills. I recently did a repair on a coworker's guitar, and I have another coworker's guitar that they gave me, that they'd like me to do some work on. But I am planning on maybe taking some classes. Um, it's a little ways off, but that's maybe the next kind of big thing for me, is taking some classes and actually getting some certifications. I'd like to become a Martin guitar authorized repair technician. Um, so
And then you can repair my acoustic guitar if I ever break it.
yeah, and it would be, technically I could do warranty work. So
Should do it.
if you break it though, it wouldn't be covered under warranty. So
Okay, well then I'll say I didn't break it. It broke its
okay,
it broke itself.
yeah, sure.
Well, I think that's kind of everything. I was gonna go into some of the episode analytics, but I honestly, or the podcast analytics, but honestly, this feels like a good like time to close, right? For
Yeah,
this
I think
episode.
so.
So we appreciate you all sticking with us for 50 episodes, 50 years, like we said at the beginning. One episode a year. Uh, no, we appreciate everyone who's stuck with us this far. Um, Here's to the next 50, right?
Yeah. Until episode 100.
Oh,
Stay tuned.
wait, can we end it the way we ended the first episode? Thanks for thanks for tuning in to In Tune. Until next time, stay tuned. Did you hear?
Yeah, I noticed.
Did you
I
hear that?
noticed that as well. I did notice that as well.
All right,
All right. Well,
Matt, close it out with that.
you were the one who said that. I can't even remember all of those in tune ins.
So you want me to close it out?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
let you do it.
Thanks for tuning in to In Tune. Until next time, stay tuned.